Hi, I'm Alexi Heidemann, and on this week's episode of the I Fell Into This podcast, we are joined by Paul, as always, and this week our special guest is Christian Bannister, who actually works with branding within the recruitment industry. Hi, Christian.
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure, mate.
And typically what we do when a new guest comes on is the podcast is called I Fell Into This. So
Yes.
we talk about how they fell into recruitment. But you're slightly different in terms of what you do and your involvement with recruitment. So talk to us about how you kind of came to working adjacent to recruitment.
Yeah. So coming here, I was thinking about that question because of obviously the podcast name, and like every single recruiter that comes on this podcast or we speak to, as they fell into it, similar thing, right? So.
Okay.
For 17 years, I worked in retail. So I was a graphic designer in an advertising marketing team. And then that just kind of came to an end. I was looking for something different. And then I saw this role and it was like, oh, like that sounds interesting. Like it sounds like I could, do what I do with kind of my creative graphic design background. And it just seemed like a challenge, right? And so knowing nothing about recruitment, I was like, yeah, right. Like that sounds cool. Yeah. And like the opportunity to kind of do what I do with kind of across all the different kind of disciplines that I work across. He was like, yes, please. That's amazing. So like everybody says, yeah, fell into it, right? Yeah. And so kind of here we are.
Well, one week though, someone's going to surprise us. No, I wanted to be a recruiter since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
So all that, there must be like training for it, like formal training? Is there courses in it? Or is it all on the job, right?
Yeah, it's kind of all on the job, really. It's nothing you would ever get, like your careers advisor at school's going to go to you and go, oh, I think you should be a recruiter. Like, never going to happen, right? Or you don't study it at uni. Or
what would happen if your son came to you, like at 16, like, Dad, I really want to be in recruitment?
I'd tell him you're having a
no,
life,
it's
no
not
chance.
Like,
no chance.
Anything but.
Well, I'd probably sign him up and get him to launch his own business.
Then and there. Everyone's a deal, even family, right?
Well, the general path is, I did history, sociology at uni and then became a recruiter.
Yeah.
That is generally the path, right? Yeah, for most people. Yeah. So I don't know anyone I think I've ever spoken to has always wanted to be a recruiter. My dad's a recruiter. My granddad was a recruiter.
It runs in the family. We've got to keep the tradition going.
My surname's recruiter.
Well, your story's similar, right?
Well, similar, yeah.
Because marketing, like creative, you can take that into any discipline, right? So the things that you do are kind of transferable. Okay, your customer's different, but you can still apply what you've learnt. Some things that work in retail, you can transfer right into kind of like recruitment.
Similar story. I've worked in different areas of marketing, but like you, this was kind of like sounds interesting. Let's see, like how most people fall into recruitment, I suppose. It's like sounds interesting. Let's see how it goes. Down the line, it's like and similar. It's like it's been great dealing with lots of different recruitment businesses, finding out about their businesses, seeing how you can add to their business and help them along the way. That's part of the buzz for me, and I guess for you as well. Yeah.
Well, so again, very similar. There was a learning curve, right? There was a steep learning curve. Yeah. So, there are so many industry-specific things that sit around recruitment that as someone from the outside, you're just not aware of, right? Yeah. So, there was a very quick kind of like, blimey, I need to get up to speed pretty quick, right?
Got to learn a few acronyms. What does that mean?
100%.
Yeah.
But, when I knew what was needed to be delivered, then it was relatively easy to apply this thing to that thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
and in terms of that then, so just give us an overview then of what it is that specifically you work, you help with recruiters with. What do you do specifically within your role within the industry then?
Yeah. So primarily, I look after creation branding. So particularly with the guys that we launch, when we're starting a business from scratch, you need something to sit around your business as kind of your creative, right? So instantly that's a logo, right? We need to kind of find the foundation of who you want to be. So we work with them to find out first what the name is that kind of then feeds into what that could look like. And then we need to get to the bottom of like what they want to be, what they want a business to represent. now that often that kind of is very dependent on sector. So that's often the kind of into what we want to do. And then it's kind of trying to work out, first of all, what that nugget of an idea is to kind of come up with a logo and that initial creative. And then that kind of leads into brand, right? So a brand is a much, much bigger picture. But, you know, between what I do and what marketing does, that kind of feeds into that. But initially, and I hate to reduce it to this, but it's colouring in. Right? so I have a very big set of crayons that I work with, and basically like working with the partners to kind of work out what they need, and then starting this thing, which then cascades into all the other kind of creative elements that they might need sort of going forward. But in a nutshell, pens and paper, colouring in.
It's not always that easy though, is it? You're working with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different ideas. I guess there must be times when sometimes the crayons aren't working properly.
So that goes across. So we spoke about retail a moment ago, and a lot of it is how you get the ideas out of people. You're 100% right. Like some people come in with a really focused, clear idea of what they want, and that's my job to realise their idea. It's also my job sometimes to say, actually, that probably isn't the best idea. Like, there has been occasions where people have been absolutely fixated on something where, you know, I have a little bit of experience. I think that probably isn't the best route to go down. So part of it is a negotiation, right? So we have to talk about what would work and what wouldn't, because I'd like to think, because of a bit of experience, I can partly predict what would make something successful. But you are right, like there is a lot of input or not input sometimes, and you have to kind of work with them to kind of get something that is going to represent them primarily and the business should it grow. So it's a little bit of an art.
What's more difficult? Someone who has a very clear idea won't budge when you're trying to guide them maybe down a route you think is better, or someone who is blank canvas, has no idea what even colours they like.
Right. So both have their pros and cons. So for me, always the best outcome is when there's collaboration. Now, if you give me a blank piece of paper, I'll draw something all day long, right? And I'll come up with something that I like, and it's probably awesome, right? but the best ones are always when there's collaboration. So when someone comes with me with a nugget of idea, and it might be something like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that, because I work in a particular way, and I have a process which kind of works for me, and often it's about speed and kind of getting things to market, right? But when someone comes with something that is a little bit off to what I would start with, those ones are fantastic, right? So, but equally, there are ends of that spectrum where you're right, where someone is adamant they want this, and you're saying, ooh, I ain't going to fly, mate. But then equally, when someone literally has nothing, again, that's quite difficult, because, you know, if you don't have an idea of what you want it to be, you know, it's such an open window that it's very difficult to narrow that down a little bit. And that is part of what I have to do, to kind of like say why we should go down this route and kind of convince a little bit. But both have their pros and cons, right? But everyone is fun.
And so is it a case of them working out, okay, well, what's your, again, what do you want to stand for? Where do you want your business? Are you growing? Are you not? Are you, you know, that kind of aspect that plays into part of it, does it as well?
Oh, more than anything, right? So if you come with an idea, because the market itself, right? So what we create isn't the brand. Like that isn't. It's a start of what could be a brand, but that's not the brand, right? So I will give you an example. So a long time ago, we had a partner launch with us, and they want to call their company the Burford Group Company. Now, that was before any logo creative was kind of thought about, but they knew what the idea of the business was going to be. So they knew that they were going to be a local recruitment company in the Cotswolds, and they knew their audience and they knew what they were going to deliver. Now, having that nugget of an idea really just fed so naturally into what the logo and the brand became, right?
Yeah.
Because it was the idea that was there at the start of that process that was already formed. And for me, that was one of the best I've worked on, because it came from something that they knew who they wanted to be.
Yeah.
Often, what you know more than anything is the sector you're working in.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you know. You don't quite know where the destination you want to get to, but this had such a clear focus that it made my job a joy, right? And they were fantastic to work with anyway. So, yeah, it varies, but basically having that nugget of an idea is such a good starting point. Right?
Definitely. So how many recruitment brands have you worked on then? What's your experience on numbers wise? Is there anything particularly that you kind of put out there and actually not really wanted to put your name to, maybe because you've been swayed a bit by...
This is going to get awkward. If I start naming names of ones that...
We can put words in your mouth. It's up to you where you take this.
Yeah. So I suppose, so I've been at SSG 11 years, I think it is now. So over that time, it's probably in the hundreds, right? Like there's been a few, and I've enjoyed all of those, right? Like they've all been fantastic. 100% I have favourites. There are also ones I look back on that I wouldn't have done, but in fact, actually, let's go back a little bit. So often the creative part is very subjective, like incredibly subjective. Right?
Yeah.
So something that someone might like, someone may dislike.
Yeah.
Love the orange, hate the orange.
Yes, exactly. Do love. Yeah. God bless the Dutch. So you're right. Like it's very dependent. Now there are things that I wouldn't have pushed out, but then if someone's really passionate about it, go for it, right? If you're really into it, where it falls down sometimes, and I will give you an example. If you choose a name, you better be confident that thing's going to fly for an extended period of time, right?
Yeah.
Because if you choose a name that doesn't give you, opportunity to kind of pivot at a later stage, then it kind of really can restrict what you do. The example I'll give you is there was a company we worked with called Site Retail Group. Now, they recruited in the retail space, so it was shop fits, those kind of things, and great company, fantastic company. They knew exactly what they did. They really niche in that. I mean, a really niche company, right?
Yeah.
So they had that target audience, and they were great at what they did. Now, a few years down the line, they pivoted into healthcare. Now we've got a massive.
Yeah, I can see where this is going.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, oh dear. Yeah. Like often, if you have a company, it's relatively easy to do sub brands of that and kind of like just increase your sector, whatever.
Yeah. Helps if you've got a neutral virgin
name
to
start
with,
right? All day long.
Yeah.
But in this instance, because it was so niche from the offset, which sometimes is a great thing, right? Because you want to be seen as sector specialists, right? So that was fantastic because that said exactly what you do on the tin, all that business. It's just, unfortunately, they spun out into this other thing where it makes your original concept a little bit redundant.
Yeah.
So it was unfortunate in that instance. So I'm often, when we have new launches in, I'm quite aware of making sure that the very beginning, is this the lane you're going to stay in?
Yeah.
If it is, fantastic. Like let's really lean into this, right? If not, don't kind of box yourself in. Like have a get out that you can kind of move into here. So it's very dependent.
Yeah.
And you're talking about interpretations and how different people see things. There's an example that comes to mind. I think about this all the time. There's a company near me, if they're listening, called 3-Star Coaches. Now, in my mind, straight away, I'm thinking, they sound a bit average, don't they? It's like, you're only 3-star because I'm kind of judging out of 5, right?
Yes.
3-star coaches means you're not that great, But that's they may be the best coach company out there.
Do you know the story behind it?
No, I don't. I'm going to have to find this out. But why that's happened?
And also, I'd want to know their Google average. Is it 3 stars? Happy days,
it probably does have a legitimate story. Like people come to you and say, I've got this great idea. I'm going to call my company 3-Star Coaches because of some reason behind the 3 stars. Whereas I'm seeing 3 out of 5, that sounds very average and not very
Yes,
great.
yeah,
so
yeah.
it is so conjective at the subjective as to how
Yeah.
different people see things.
Well, just on a tangent, we did have someone who wanted to launch, and he wanted to call his company 3Rs Recruitment. It comes across as 3Rs Recruitment. And you kind of just have to think past a little bit, but that's interesting. Although, you know, we don't know what three stars means, but
I'm going to find out.
yeah, we are going to find out. But I do.
Is that a great marketing ploy then?
Maybe.
It's stuck in your head, right?
It has, but
Thing is,
ultimately
it's
I'm thinking
kind of-
skip those because they've only got 3. I want to find
That's right.
4-star or 5-star coaches.
3.5 star. Yeah.
Well, but I do love a story behind a name.
Yeah.
I think those are fantastic.
Yeah,
It's nice when it means something to the recruiter and the business, and you know, it may not be evident when you see the name first of all, but you know, through conversation, maybe storytelling or whatever.
Exactly, it's talking points sometimes, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Particularly if they're doing BD, you can hear it often.
But
They're
one
like,
comes to
clients
mind.
ask me about my
One
name.
comes to mind is buttons, right?
Oh,
Buttons.
great
What a story
right?
behind that.
Great
One
story.
of our partners.
Yes, yeah, lovely, and that actually feeds into the brand as well because there's the pink and the blue, and like it's so lovely. I'll give you another example. It's slightly embarrassing. Bear with me. So we recently launched a company called Candle Recruitment. They spell it Candle, Candl, and I was like, fantastic, that's lovely, right? Because I really like the kind of the Silicon Valley drop the vowels. I think that's fantastic, and they're an education recruitment agency, and part of the branding is you know, seeing the light and you know, all around that kind of thing, and I thought it was fantastic. Job done. It was only relatively recently I found out that Candle is Charm and Laura, and I was like, you are kidding me.
Right.
I did the logo and I didn't even know that. I'm such an idiot. But I think that's a lovely story. And the fact that they're working together is absolutely fantastic. And like, did you know that?
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
I knew
I'm
that.
embarrassed for
Right.
you as well.
You guys, I knew it.
You knew that, right?
It's not an obvious one though, is it?
It isn't, like, absolutely, but I can't believe that I did the logo.
Yeah.
And I didn't work
didn't
it
even
out.
ask.
Yeah, exactly. I'm such a dimwit.
But on that then, so not necessarily recruitment specific, but what kind of, because you hear it all, people ask me all the time, like, I don't know about company name, and it's like I often say, you know, who would have thought Apple would be a good name for a company then? So obviously, what makes a successful? It's not just the name, it's not just the logo. That probably plays a part, right? But what makes a successful brand then?
Oh, right. So I won't talk about recruitment.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about one of my passions, right? Bear with me. Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
I love Iron Maiden, right? Now, of course, it centres around the music. Like, the music, you may disagree, is amazing. Like, I love everything about it. But, and like, their artworks, like, all of this feeds into brand, right? So it's kind of time in the game. It's kind of them as people, them as musicians. You know, obviously the music and the look and feel and being part of an audience, and you know, it is the visual side of it, which is amazing. But it's also how it makes you feel, like what they deliver, and okay, like how do we tie that back to recruitment? But it's a similar thing, right? It's about your service, it's about your delivery, it's about how you make people feel, about trust and, you know,
Culture, isn't it?
Oh my God,
It comes from them.
absolutely.
Right? It comes from the founders more so than anything, right?
More than anything, particularly for those guys that, you know, when you launch, it's just you, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you are the voice. So you have to define what that vision and what that brand is and what your values are, because that comes from the individual. Now, yes, over time, that will be instilled in the company culture, right? But, you know, what an opportunity for you to define, you know, the values of your business from what you believe in, because more often than not, and we see it all the time, that when people come from agencies, they have occasionally bad experiences, right? They don't agree with, you know, the tone of voice or values of the business, and, you know, because they haven't defined it and they've come from somewhere else way back, you know, actually starting on your own is such an opportunity for you as a business owner, right, to kind of define what you want
Put your
this thing
stamp
to
on it
be
from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about kind of like, you know, assuming it's a good stamp, right, not a bad stamp, but like, you know, if you're putting all these fantastic things that you've learned into practice, fantastic, right?
Yeah. And yeah, because it's similar to like we've talked about this in the office before, but like Audi, right?
Mhm.
Part of their
Oh.
branding is
Right.
their X account or
Yeah.
Twitter. What was
Right.
Twitter account?
Right.
Yeah. And like awesome, right? Well,
Yeah.
That's great marketing, that isn't it?
Oh, I love it. And the thing is, what they do so well, like their tone of voice and bringing humour to things, and it's a bit cheeky, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and okay, all they're trying to do is make you buy more pate. I don't know, right? However, you know, they're kind of things that resonate with you, right? And kind of like it builds trust, and you know, the fact that it might align with your values. That's what they're trying to lean into, right?
Yeah.
And that's a change in market though as well, because that's leaning more into a younger generation and more recent media.
Yes.
You know, the instant socials, you know, the Instagrams, the TikTok, all that sort of stuff where, you know, it's a totally different kind of messaging because it's short and sharp, it's cheeky, it's funny, which appeals more to sort of the younger generations and the way things are going rather than sort of more old-fashioned branding, above the line, that sort of thing. So branding that way, I suppose, has shifted quite a lot, and we're seeing a lot more kind of on the edge stuff coming out now, I think.
So traditional advertising marketing is in a really difficult position, right? Because you know, you can't just, you know, buy media space and just push out print and digital and just say buy my pate or whatever it looks like. You have to be leaning into, first of all, where the people are. So you know, similar to recruitment, like know where your audience is living, and also kind of just feed into what they're doing. So if it is, you know, obviously we've seen a massive rise in influencers, right? And you know, sponsored influencers and like paid for advertising in that instance, because that's what people are listening to and responding to. And like, yes, there is authority in kind of like YouTubers and you know, Twitter and whatever it might be. So you know, that's where, bring it back to recruitment, that's you know, the value of your personal brand on LinkedIn. You know, more and more people are sort of using TikTok and Instagram for kind of like work purposes. So yeah, it's kind of where it's going, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. And then obviously with kind of brands you're working with now within the recruitment industry, then are there any ones now that like stick out to you where they're like doing something a bit different, where you're seeing success in what they're built, they know what they stand for, and they're being successful in their branding? Yeah,
there's a few. One that comes to mind, a company we called Agentic Global. Now, first of all, they have a great identity now. I'd love to claim credit for this one, but the work comes from those guys, right? They're such a great couple of guys, and the fact that they were pushing this, and it just visually looks fantastic. Now, alongside of that, they have the identity part of like they kind of like sort of extreme sports and kind of like just kind of the visuals of that, right? Which kind of like they're really kind of big personalities. Now, combine that with they have quite a cheeky sense of humour, right, as well. So there's a lot of personality there. Now, when you put those side by side, it really adds up to like the start of a really, really good brand. And because it's so visually impactful on LinkedIn, brilliant. It stands out from the crowd, right? It's so in your face. Say, combined with just their enthusiasm on social media and their personality. Because that's what's driving it, right?
I was going to say, it needs to come from them. Like, and they're consistent with it, I think, as well. That's the key thing. They've been doing that since day one.
Well, I think it is them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's hard for, and we're starting to see it with other businesses coming on board about trying to find that niche, trying to find that something different, makes them stand out from the crowd. Because let's face it, a lot of these recruitment businesses out there are pretty similar, pretty bland. How do I do something different? Those guys have found that little niche. There's hundreds of other niches out there where you could go with this. But I think there's also a danger in trying to be something that you're not. So, right, how do I stand out? Right, we're going to do something really bright and bold. But actually, if you don't have that personality that matches that, kind of like it falls a bit flat because you're not that outgoing extrovert kind of person who's out there talking to people. Actually, if you're quite an introvert and you're hiding behind you know, Teams calls and that sort of stuff, you're not meeting people, then that doesn't match. I don't think that it doesn't kind of come off that way then, does it? So you've got to find something that is you as well.
100%. I always say when we're starting with a brand, and particularly with the website, right, and that's where often that's the kind of start of it, you've got to find your tone of voice. Now, that tone of voice then feeds into LinkedIn. Now, it's really easy on LinkedIn first of all, to just AI slop, right? There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of it about.
yeah.
And of course, you want to like define yourself as an industry expert, right? And what you know about the sector, fantastic. However, you do also have to have your own voice and your own opinion.
Yeah.
Assuming it's a good one. Like, let's not all get like Elon Musk about it, right?
Well, that's the thing, yeah, because there's do you say all your opinions, or do you hold stuff, political stuff or religious stuff
Well,
back, right?
so there are a few characters on LinkedIn, right, who I swear are doing things to poke the bear.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel it. Like, they're trying to generate...
That's the way the media's going, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's
I
so
know.
many people out there who I'm not going to mention names. Everyone knows who they are, who put out an opinion just to provoke a response.
Yes.
And I think LinkedIn is... You can do that, as long as you're not pushing your ideals down on someone's throat. It's okay to say, "What do you think about this?" as a new idea or something like that.
Yeah,
and you open it up. Social is for conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're starting those conversations and you've got a valid reason for bringing it back to your content creation you're doing and your content plan for your business, and it kind of aligns with your business, then I'd be saying fine, go for it, because you're sticking your head above the parapet a bit, as long as you're not being offensive, and
it's doing it in the right way.
Yeah,
like you said, the approach has to be in the right way then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's absolute value in being yourself, right? You've got to be authentic. Like people are going to find out very quickly that you're saying things for either reaction or it's not genuine. Recruitment, full stop, is about people and rapport, right?
Yeah.
So it's easier said than done in person, because that's fine, like having a conversation, and but when you're in a social media environment, you're talking one to many, it's a little bit more difficult, and it will take time. You can't instantly become Mr. Enigmatic online, right? You kind of just have to say, find your tone of voice, right? Like, you have to find first of all, what's resonating with people, or what's engaging conversation, and particularly of the people that you want to be connected with, and kind of like in your sector. So there's a fine line, I think, a little bit, but I would always say, just be yourself, right?
I think I see that when I'm talking especially to new founders who have maybe come from larger agencies, and then they're suddenly kind of like starting for themselves, and quite often that conversation is, I don't know what I should be posting about. I don't know how I should be portraying myself and positioning myself in the market. So my advice is always, you've got to start off pretty small, and especially if you've not gone into that, build yourself up, find your tone, and what's your sector experience. Start talking about that. Find the news, and then it will gradually flow. If you're sitting there thinking, what do I post about this month? What's my content plan? What am I getting out about my brand? Then you're probably in trouble. You've got to be just using those conversations you're having and the experiences you've had to begin with, especially to just kind of let it come naturally. Yeah.
So I know we get the same question all the time, like, what do I post, right? Like that, we hear that all the time. Now, yes, you can absolutely go down the route of talking about what your business offers, why it's better, case studies, things that could be seen as a little bit dry, right? But they're kind of like the bread and butter of what we do. But I think that's, and people say all the time, like, save for Facebook. Unfortunately, or fortunately, LinkedIn is becoming more personable in that way, right? So, you do
more
have to open
as well.
up.
I've seen quite a lot recently.
Oh, absolutely right. Yeah. But, well, here's a question, because I know you're probably the biggest LinkedIn user amongst us three. What do you find resonates best with your audience?
I think it's storytelling, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
like, no one wants to see, another job description.
Yeah.
Or another this or that.
Right.
You want something that you can be like, for example, there's some really great, people, recruitment industry specialists who post out there. And the thing why they have such large followings, you think of the likes of Sean Anderson and Hisham and Azuz, they've got really large followings, and because they're posting stories, they're posting real life examples of what other people in the industry are going through.
That's what people want to hear, isn't it?
And people resonate with that. So they're like, that's me. I'm doing that. Or that's me. He's now there. I could do that.
Yeah.
So, and that's what people want that's what really resonates with people, is that storytelling. I try and do it, you know, in terms of people I speak with, conversations I'm having with either new founders or prospects about questions I get asked, or challenges or successes, things like that.
Yeah,
things
you,
that are
you
just
use
going to
your conversations a lot, don't you?
because I think that's what the platform's there to. It's to inspire others, or it's to make sure, you know, if there are challenges, you're not the only one going through these challenges, but we, you know, the LinkedIn is supposed to be, well, originally, you know, it was that platform for professional people to help, to support each other, help
I think
each other
it was
out
always going to be
as
hard
well.
for it to stay in that niche.
But it could still be that. It can
could
still
come
be,
back,
and there are good people to follow who do post that.
That depends on
content.
who you want to get involved with.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
If you want to follow the political content, like
Exactly.
you follow it. But otherwise, I think you know, they're the ones you kind of going to get more out of LinkedIn from, and that's what people should.
Good question, Christian. But it's our podcast, and we ask the question.
Oh, no more question for me. Although
I was on the spot there.
I will like lead on from that though, but you know, I think particularly like we're three old white guys, right, talking. But
hold on.
Oh yes, mate. Like,
Oh no,
you're pretending you're the younger. But here we are. But you know, with like Gen Z and you know the new generation coming up, I think vulnerability, right? Like, so what you're saying about being open and like you know, actually, you know, you do have to open up a little bit, right?
You do.
Kind of like,
and you can't be scared of other people's opinions. You know, if people like put a comment and say this is Facebook, or I think this is shit, you're a dick, whatever it is,
right?
You're going to get those people. I say welcome it, right? These people are seeing what your content's getting seen.
It's all good. I suppose like come back to the Ricky Gervais comment, isn't it? You might be offended, but it doesn't mean you're right. I think that
exactly
such a
that.
great quote, and it applies, doesn't it?
And that's another prime example of him as a brand, right?
Oh my goodness,
unreal. Right? Very controversial. But knows what he stands for.
But in a similar way, so just pivot back to brand for a second. What I see with, you know, our new business launching, and often it's just a one-man band, and potentially they go on to bigger things, you know, it's very similar to YouTubers, right? So, you know, as in building a brand, and you are the voice of that opinion, and, you know, a lot of YouTubers like struggle to get out of, you know, being the focus of that business and like being onto a bigger thing, but it is about like what you represent, right? And how you present yourself, and kind of like, you know, trying to engage with your audience. So it's a very similar market, but I digress.
Are there any don'ts that you would say when it comes to branding? Is there like you mentioned, you know, some founders at the start, they're adamant on certain things, you might steer them in a different direction. So is there anything you would say this is an absolute no from a branding perspective?
So at the beginning, when you launch your business, I understand it's a very exciting, very stressful time, right? So we have put in place all of the exciting, beautiful, creative website, you know, all the bits that surround that. And the danger sometimes is to like, oh my goodness, this is the business. Like, you know, my business is the website, and it is my social media, and it is all the bits that surround that. And I've seen occasionally people fall into that rabbit hole of like, this is my business and this is what I need to do to be successful. Now, it's incredibly important what we do. Of course it is, Paul, right? The most important part, some would say. But I would argue when you're launching your business, it's old school, right? It's kind of like business development. It's kind of, you know, being on phones, meeting people. It's about, you know, face to face, and the branding in that very first instance, like creating your tone of voice and all those bits and pieces, isn't the thing that's going to drive business to you in the short term.
Because
in the long term,
they've already heard of you before, they land on your LinkedIn page, or because there's been a trigger that's got them there in the first place, right? And that trigger is you.
Correct. That's right. Yeah, and people feel as though they need to then push, you know, this new brand and kind of like get people involved, and you know, and then of course like business is going to fall through the door, right? Like it's going to be amazing. Now there should be a longer term goal, and there has to be, you know, a strategy to, you know, brand awareness and tone of voice and all those bits we've already spoken about. But the risk is in those first 3-6 months, you fall into this rabbit hole of like trying to push the brand and like you know get more engagement on the website and work about your SEO. Again, I'm not saying they're not valuable, but they're the things that are distraction.
Just relying too heavily on it, right?
It's time and place, isn't it? It's like, and the advice I give as well, similar to yourself, is like you've got to go through those basics. You know, I've not got a recruitment background, but I know that you know what you did previously on your sort of day-to-day. That's the stuff that you need to be doing now, right? The stuff, the bread and butter. Look after the bread and butter.
Right.
Down the line, 6 months down the line, if you've got those billings coming in, brilliant. And then you can start to look at where do I take this now? I've maybe got a little bit more time. Do I have a look at how I'm branding myself? Do I spend a bit more time on you know, my LinkedIn content or working on a larger marketing plan per se? But those are not day one problems, are they?
No, not at all. And like, yes, absolutely, they are valuable. We're not disregarding that, and because you know there's always a space for those things. You need to work those in, but because you know starting a business is a stressful thing, right? And like you're wearing so many hats, and you know you need to be thinking about the billing part of it first, and rather than focusing on like, oh, should this tweet like have this hashtag or not? And it's like,
again, like you think about the most successful companies in the world were all probably pre-social media anyway. So when you think of your Nikes, your Apples, it wasn't like they were focusing on that. They were getting customers, clients in. They were selling right at the start, hustling, selling, and then Nike got Michael Jordan. That's how they built their brand years later, right? So it's kind of
So you know, we talk about brand, and instantly we think about the visual side of it. But brand, as we've already said, is service, right? So you know, when people kind of like you know what you're known for and like, you know, build up trust, you know, that it's all wrapped in. So it's all a good thing, right? Like the fact that you're building these relationships and getting word of mouth out there and, you know, feeding that impression of what people know of you and the business. So it's all a positive thing, and it does all lead into like trust and, you know, transparency, engagement and all those bits and pieces. So yeah, just kind of focus on like doing the thing right. And like, and these bits will kind of just naturally feed into it rather than being the focus of what you should be doing.
Well, recruitment as well, it's a people business,
right?
So of course it's the logo is only as good as the founder themselves, right? I guess.
Well, the logo.
The logo's always good.
It is always the focal point, right?
Let's not play down the logo. Okay?
yes. Although,
Lexi, don't
yes.
play
No,
down, not today.
God forbid
not these logos.
On the next podcast, then we can play it down on that one.
Can we just get like a rolling bar
of
of
all your
logos
logos
along the bottom?
Yeah,
That would be
we do
amazing,
that.
right?
So,
Do you have a favourite that you've ever done logo-wise? I know you mentioned the Burford Company from like the branding, what they stood for, but do you have a favourite logo you've ever done? We can plug them.
That's right. Well, so generally, my it was the very first one I did.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't
So
the best.
you've never done better since?
Well, I peaked. It's been
downhill since then.
The only reason I say that because when I came into recruitment and I started this branding journey with all these partners, there's something special about the first one I did.
Okay.
And I remember it, although I'm not sure if she still uses it. She might have had this was like 11 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if she's rebranded since. It was TO Resourcing.
Okay.
So there's something a little bit special about that.
Yeah. Never can forget your first. Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly. But they're all my babies. Right? They're all beautiful. So I couldn't pick one, right?
No, fair enough.
What about outside of recruitment? Is there any sort of particular branding of any company that you kind of like at the moment? It's like, oh wow, they're doing something really special here.
So I mean, it's such a cliche, and I hate to lean on it, right? I'm going to say Apple.
Yeah.
Now, yes, I am an Apple fanboy, right? And their visual identity is crazy. Now, I came in on Tube today, bear with me, right? And I don't go on the Tube very often, but what I love about the Tube is the adverts, right? Like, I love, first of all, seeing what's trending and like what kind of, what's just the graphic design, what's going on at the moment, right? And I love that part of it. But equally, I love seeing adverts that if you can cover the logo and the name, does the rest of the aesthetic tell you who that person is?
Okay.
Now, Apple all day long, right? Like you can cover the mark, and you know that's an Apple advert. Similarly with not quite as prestigious, but like EE or Vodafone, right? You know instantly that, you know, cover that markup and you know what that brand is. And like that's the mark of a really successful campaign, right? That they're doing all the right things. Now, the dream of all the stuff that I do is that, you know, it gets to a point where it's known enough, and you know, it might be down to colours or shapes or tone or font or whatever it might be, and you can cover that mark and you know who that recruitment company is. That would be the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the dream. But then you know, the exposure you'd need is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But I love brands that can do that.
And Apple kind of has always led the way, I think. Particularly, I remember when the iPod first came out, right? And you talk about features and benefits. And there's posts you see, like, if Apple were to just name all of the features of the iPod, it would list, right? Boring.
Right.
But benefits, 12,000 songs in one place.
Right.
That was it. That's how they sold it.
Right.
Amazing. Right?
So good. But, you know, again, that differentiation between logo now and brand. Now, the visual identity of Apple is gorgeous, right? Like, we know that. It's fantastic. But it's about product, it's about service, it's about trust.
It's backed up, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, the pedigree is
it
insane.
It wasn't always either, though. They've kind of evolved as a business, right?
Well, the thing is, like, so you know, just because I'm a graphic designer, I've used Macs all my life, right? And there's a period in the mid-90s where
awful.
It was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Like it was falling apart. But you know, I'm in too deep, right? like this is the tools of my trade. I mean, thank God it came good, right? But
I think at that stage as well, there was a disconnect between you know, Apple and sort of everything else and what you're using, because software wasn't compatible, and so you were either in with Apple or you were out, weren't you? Just like if you designed something, you used to have issues. I remember trying to transfer stuff between Apples and other PCs, and like you'd have compatibility issues. It's like
that's what they tie you into. So if you've got one Apple product, you can't leave, right? They tie you in to make it. They leave you there for life. You can never leave Apple.
Oh no, I'm in too deep, right? Like well, here's an example of like the power of brand right now.
Where have you got that tattoo?
If you want to show it, I'll get it out, right? But
it'll work well on the audio version.
Yeah.
If you're watching on video. But the power of brand, right? So there are so many people I talk to. Like when we launch, we talk about hardware, right, and what kind of like systems you need. And you know, some people go, oh, I do have an iPhone, but I usually a Windows PC, but I think I'll get a Mac. And I'm like, oh, do you know like Mac operating system, and like you know how to use it? And like, oh no. But you're prepared to spend £1,500 on a computer that you know nothing about, but you're so drawn to the brand. Yeah. That's insane, right?
I think now most people have had exposure to an Apple product.
Yes. Yeah.
Generally the iPhone or the iPod previously.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I know it's going to be good. I don't really need to know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the power of trust, right? Like, you know, the fact that you're spending a huge amount of money on something that you feel is going to work for you. I mean, that's what a brand, right? That's why it's the most richest brand in the world, I think.
It's got to be, right?
So, it's $1 trillion plus, whatever it is, I don't know, it is, but...
Yeah.
Take your word for it.
Yeah, we'll take your word for it.
Wish I had shares in those boys.
Imagine getting those shares back in the 90s.
Well, I was on the cusp of doing that, and I was the idiot, right?
Oh, you wouldn't be here now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good for you didn't, because then you couldn't have come on the podcast.
Exactly. You wouldn't have this episode. Yeah. And then, obviously, the big buzzword at the moment is obviously AI.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts? Firstly, what's your thoughts of that within the branding, marketing kind of space? Then
the thing is, like, so I could easily tell you right now, it's a fad. It's not going to work. Don't take my job. But I'm more on board, right? Like, I know the AI overlord will like take all our jobs at some point, but at the moment, it really is adding value. You know what I mean? Like the one that comes to mind is like just writing in general. Like you know, as long as you're putting in good content and it's aiding you, it's not doing the job for you. Yeah. It needs to be a tool, right? So like you use Photoshop or whatever, it's something that can, you know, add value to what you're already doing. Like. We've already talked about AI slop, right? So, you know, social media is full of it just because people can without having the thought behind it. So as long as the seed of the idea is there and what you're trying to achieve, I think it's a great tool, right? Like it's something that can, add value to what you're already doing. But if you're doing it just to fill a space, that's irritating as all hell, right?
Is this going to stunt creativity, do you think, down the line? Are kids that are coming into the market as graphic designers,
Right.
are they not going to have that same kind of skill set that you had when you were training?
It's
to
possible
be a graphic
because if you're leaning on something to do the heavy lifting now. So when I'm creating a logo or anything creative, there's a little bit of trial and error, right? Like you will learn from your mistakes, and I've made mistakes a lot, right?
But we'll save those for another podcast as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be very
Christmas edition.
Yeah, but so I fear that AI it spits something out and go, that'll do, and there it goes, right, without knowing why it works or the mechanics behind it a little bit. So I'm not trying to big up what I do by any means, but there is a little bit of I think I understand like how we get to the end point, whereas you might just say, oh, that looks good, or it doesn't look good for whatever reason, without knowing the history of it a little bit. But in general, like I'm a big fan, right? Like the thing like blows my mind sometimes.
Yeah.
With kind of what it can do, and I've probably got days, not years, left in my career, but I had a good run.
I think you're right. It's again, it's a balance thing, right? Not an over reliance on it, or just a copy and paste all of this AI
No.
post to put out, because you can spot them a mile off as well.
Oh
but
yeah, it's just awkward, right?
Using it in the right way.
But a good prompt is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
Say as long as that core idea is based on something solid, happy days, right? And I think it's just a tool to use, right? And unfortunately, the Pandora's box is open, whatever it is, and kind of can't get that back in.
It's not going back in. No.
And yeah, I guess where do you see it going? What do you think the future of like branding and marketing looks like with that evolution of AI?
Yes, so there are things that are quite good at the moment with doing the heavy lifting. So automation, right? So you can do things now where it would have been a manual process of doing this, and this to get the end result. Like whereas you can actually seed things now that will do the heavy lifting. So anything that can take away a manual task and save you time as a recruiter is only a good thing, right? Because that means you can focus on the things that are going to have a bigger ROI.
Yeah.
So things that sit around the marketing or the branding, any social media bits and pieces, if you can take something there that's going to aid or support what you do, I'm kind of for it. I think at the moment there's a little bit of monitoring and a bit of censorship that you need, because I think it's too easy, as we've seen, just throw something out there without knowing why you're doing it.
Yeah.
But I think that there is value.
If you go back in time, this has happened throughout history, right? For those of us old enough on this side of the to be around for the start of the internet, and in our working lives, for me, as I was coming out of university, it was like, bang, this internet thing here. And I remember having to send my first files, burning a floppy disk and, CD, whatever it was, and putting that in a post to send stuff to the printers. Internet comes along, suddenly that whole process becomes a lot easier. So in some ways there was, birth of the internet as well, obviously a lot of doom and gloom and lots of positivity. And the same thing is kind of happening now with AI. There's people that's like, it's going to take all our jobs, and there's people on the other side that, no, it's just going to make our jobs easier, same as the internet did.
So LinkedIn, funnily enough, as well, when LinkedIn came along, every recruitment company said this is going to put us out of business.
Yeah. I'll give you a very quick lazy example. So if you had a profile photo, so we've got a JPEG and it's got a background on it. In the olden days, I'd go into Photoshop, I'd do a mask tool around the thing, I'd feather it, and I'd fluff around with it for a bit, kind of make sure that it's cut out quite nicely, and we could drop it onto another background. With AI, you can literally do that in seconds, and that thing is crazy. And that's something that I don't care particularly how it's done, but if I get the end result and it saves me time, I can move on to something else. That's a crazy powerful tool.
Yeah.
And that's going to get better and better, right?
Yeah. Cool. And so So in terms of for either existing businesses or founders at the early stages, or those who are just about to sort of launch their businesses, what would your advice be for sort of branding then? What top tips would you have for them?
So initially, and I'll go back to that Burford thing, right? So know what that core idea is, because that's going to be the central thing that we base everything on, and everything will cascade from there. So as long as that core idea is good, then everything should kind of just roll into place, right? So if you know who you are and what you're going to be, then that bit, the creative that comes around it, and the social media and the marketing, all bits and pieces, will kind of seed from there. So if you've got that idea, we're winning, right?
Okay.
Happy days.
Cool. Awesome. Good advice.
Thank you.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, thanks very much for coming on. Great
Anytime.
discussion.
No, I really appreciate
great to
you
have
guys.
you on, Christian.
Loved it.
We'll put
thank you.
links in for like Apple and any other brands we mentioned as well. Yeah.
And all of the
Affiliate links below.
all of the 100 logos.
Yeah.
Created.
That's right. I appreciate it.
Cheers.